Hi, so first thing to note, content warning. There's going to be a bit of moaning. If you've watched the World of Warcraft episode just a bit earlier today, you will be forewarned about this already, but I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to have a bit of a moan. First of all, let's get this out there. This is not a bitching about World of Warcraft and how shit it is. I am a World of Warcraft player. I maintain 2 subscriptions. Are those the actions of someone who doesn't like the game? No. I absolutely love the game. Does that mean I like everything about it? No. And so I'm going to focus on, I'm going to start off actually a bit more positively, things I would like to see, which is sort of more like the stuff I would like to do a bit more constructive. But then because of the Valor points thing tipping me over the edge, I'm going to have a good old moan about a few things as well. Ooh. Anyway, if you're not interested in my rant, I will warn you when it's coming, and then you can just switch it off. And my sincere apologies for that. I hardly think I'm the first person to moan on the internet. Now, with the downtime, as I mentioned before, I've been playing a few other little games, and sometimes sometimes I've played MMOs a long time ago, and I've thought to myself, oh, you know, this feature's really good. I wish it was in World of Warcraft. And actually, more often than not, within a few years, it would be in World of Warcraft. They actually used to be really good at taking good features from other games and putting it into World of Warcraft. I'm not sure they do that so much now. But there are a few features I was looking at. I did a few from Star Wars The Old Republic. I'm going to look at Elder Scrolls Online now, which is a game that I dip into now and then. It has a few charms about it. It's one of those games, like there's a lot of games like this. There's a few really innovative features that are really good and I really like, but they just get the basics badly wrong. So I can't play it for any great length of time because it just gets annoying. In terms of the PvE, anyway. But there are a few features. The first one I was thinking of, a bit bizarre. I thought like, oh, well, Sky Shards. Now, Sky Shards in Elder Scrolls Online, you get like 3 a zone or something like that, or so many a zone. No, actually 3 in the start zone. Then you get much more in the other ones. But basically, they're in fixed locations. You go and find them, and you get skill points from them. And that's how you sort of progress your character with skill points. So I'm not saying that as such, but I thought maybe if they weren't in fixed locations, maybe just in terms of getting people out into the world, this is the big problem that Blizzard need to try and unlock, I feel, to give us more things to do. You know, it's all right instanced content, but what about getting us out in the world more often? And I thought, well, let's say you had a Sky Shard type situation that rewarded artifact power for our artifacts next expansion, but they had random spawn points. And then I thought, we've had this in World of Warcraft. During Tier 15, the Isle of Thunder, we had these chests that randomly spawned. And each week you could get one, and it gave you a few bits and pieces, including the key to the Palace of Lei Shen. Maybe that would be something that spawns that's randomly in the world. You need to try and find them. And once a week you can tap into this thing, and it will give you a certain amount of artifact power. And it might get people. I mean, we probably need more than just that reason, but that might be a good reason for people, rather than jumping around their fountain in their garrison, or don't have a fountain anymore. I'm Horde now. What do I have in a Horde garrison? Bonfire. Jumping around the bonfire. It's not as much fun as jumping around a fountain, I have to say. But instead of doing that, maybe we just fly around the world a bit, or ride around the world a bit. Maybe it's hard to see from the air. It encourages us to ride around the world a bit, trying to find these things, whatever they may be. They may be random mobs, or it might be a treasure chest, or whatever, or a gem that you come across, and it gives you a certain amount of artifact power. Okay, make it so that it's not so rare that only a few people will ever find it each week, but so that if you're willing to put a few hours just riding around and doing some things around the world, maybe mix it in with some other incentives to be there, that, you know, in actual fact it is worth doing. Another thing, and this is a big thing for me, that you have in Elder Scrolls Online, is open tag. The idea that someone's attacking a mob and you want to attack that mob as well. It's fine, attack it. There's no such thing as tagged it. They've just done some damage to it. As long as you do enough damage to it, you get full credit for the kill, you get loot off it and everything like that, just like they do. And you don't have to be in the same group. Now, in Warlords of Draenor, they did introduce this partially. On unique quest mobs, it's now open tag, and on rares.
We know this. If someone's already attacking it, you can attack it and still get credit. And that's really helped, because before that, there'd be a unique quest mob, and you just basically see a line of people around it, or a scrum of people around it more specifically, all firing off AoE, all waiting for it to spawn. The lucky person to get the tag. Some people would form groups, of course, but usually, especially when an expansion's just come out and there's loads of people there, there were far more there. You'd have multiple groups, and you might be the poor sod on your own, and you're trying to tag it with all your might. And it's really annoying, and it just makes you hate people. We don't need things in an MMO, which is supposed to be a sociable game, that make you hate the human race. So they got rid of it on unique quest mobs, which was a big improvement. But it still exists on all other quest mobs. And Blizzard's argument is that they want to encourage us to form groups to do these quests. Newsflash for you, it don't happen. No matter how many developers say, oh, well, I get into these groups all the time. I don't believe you, because I don't. Because what happens is, someone asks you to join a group. Instantly you're thinking to yourself, why are they needing to join a group with me? They must be shit. They're going to drag me down. They're going to hold me back. Then another thing, you think to yourself, oh, hang on a minute. I only need 2 more of these. They might have only just started the quest. Do I just join with them? We get the 2 more, and then I say, right, I'm done. Bye. Bit socially awkward, that. Or do I feel obligated to carry on until they've finished as well? So there's all these little thoughts going in your head. Now, I have to say, I do usually, if someone asks me to join a group and it's quite clear we're on the same quest, or I think we are, I do generally accept, I have to say. But it very rarely happens. It used to happen a lot. You know, when World of Warcraft first started, it happened a lot. I don't see it happening these days at all. And I actually think it's unsociable, because you could have a situation where you see someone's, you 2 of you is going for the quest mob. Oh, the quest mob's there. Someone grabs the whole lot of them, and you think, oh yeah, beggar. But they've bitten off more than they can chew, and it's gonna kill them. What do? Do you go, oh no, someone's dying there. Do I go in and help them out? No, I'm gonna stand here and wait for them to die. Mobs will reset, then I'll just go in and polish them off. How's that sociable? It's not at all, is it? Much better if you have a situation where, oh, someone's dying there, even if you don't need the quest mobs. Oh, some poor buggers pull more than they need to. And this would happen in Elder Scrolls. You'd see this in Elder Scrolls Online. And you think, so, well, I'll go in and help them, because you knew you were going to get some experience from the mobs, even if you didn't need them for a quest, and there was going to drop some loot as well, which might not be useful. But you know, you had some incentive to help them out. Now, as I say, in the current situation, like I say, you just watch them die. So I want open tagging, and I don't see any reason why not to have it. It would be much more sociable, and I would absolutely have that. Now, next thing is professions. Now, I am a big fan of professions. I do get into my professions. One feature about, and we know that there's going to be a lot of big changes in professions, because we don't know what yet. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it's going to be what I really want, but I am looking forward to it. And I like professions in all MMO. It's not just something that I think Blizzard does really well. I don't. But I just get into my professions in every area. Elder Scrolls Online is interesting because you have all the professions. You don't like choose which professions you want out of this list. You have all of them. But because they have this skill point system, you can choose to spend skill points on various things that make you better at certain professions. So you can choose to like specialise in a couple or something like that, or maybe spread them out and be like a jack of all trades. I would quite like that. So you could have a situation where, let's say, it's a bit like a talent system. You get a skill point every level from like 100 to 110. So you get 10 skill points altogether, which you can specifically, it's a talent point for professions. So you automatically have all the professions. So what this means is, if you come across a mining node, you can mine it. If you come across a herbing node, you can herb it. If you kill a beast, you loot it and then you can skin it. You can craft weapons and armor, and you can make potions and stuff like that. But maybe by spending skill points, you get better. So maybe, for example, as a miner, and you click find minerals, maybe you only get the find minerals feature if you spend a skill point. Maybe there's ways to spend skill points that allow you to get more from the mining node, that you'll just get more from it. Maybe in terms of the crafting professions, you can only craft so many things a day or something like that. But if you spend some skill points, you remove that cap. Maybe you spend a few more skill points and it allows you access to the higher quality patterns. Maybe you can only make the very basics if you don't spend any skill points. In this way, it might be possible that you can have a situation where you could spend maybe up to 5 skill points will allow you to sort of have mastery in that profession. So you could pick a couple to have absolute mastery in, or spread them out a bit more and be able to do reasonable things in all of them. But at least have the facility to have all the gathering things and all the crafting things as well. And then you think to yourself, I know what you're going to say straight away is like, yeah, but then with a talent system, you have a reset system. So one day you might be a master armor smith, and then the next day you decide you're going to be a master alchemist. You could perhaps have a situation where you can only reset these things once a month, something like that, to stop you sort of abusing it to that extent. But it's a possibility. It is something I quite like the sound of. Now, the next thing, this is the bit where I'm going to have a bit of an old moan. So you have been warned. Like I say before, I am someone who plays this game a lot, and I have 2 accounts. I am very positive on World of Warcraft, but not on everything. And because of the valor point system, I'm going to have a moan now. Here it is. So basically what I want to think about is the hold that World of Warcraft has on the community. Like, you know, a lot of people agree that Warlords of Draenor really hasn't had quality content. I don't want to get into the arguments of how much content it has, because there's different ways of looking at it. But is it quality content on balance of the overall gaming experience? No. Raids have been very good quality, but everything else hasn't. But it still has a lot of subscribers. Yes, it's lost. It hasn't lost as much as people say, I would argue. But I'm not getting into that again. But it has definitely lost. But it's still got millions more than anything else. And you think to yourself, why is this? Now, of course, you always have an awful lot of gamers that are loyal to a franchise. But most players I know, I speak to, you always come across players that have played since vanilla and played the Warcraft series before it. There's still a healthy number. They're not rare, these people. But they are now in the minority, I would say. The vast majority seem to have started playing since Wrath, which probably means they weren't playing any of the Warcraft games before that point. They probably wouldn't even be able to tell you what happened in Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2. Or Warcraft 3 even, which is actually more famous. So I find it difficult to believe that most current WoW players ever played Warcraft 1, 2 or 3. So why is it considered that basing expansions on lore from those games is such a big draw? But it clearly is, because it worked for Warlords of Draenor. Oh, we're going to come across all these old lore characters from Warcraft 1 and 2. We're going to go and see Draenor before it turned into Outland. Oh, fantastic. It was a big draw. Bizarre. I'm interested in why. But in terms of where WoW actually is at the moment, it isn't producing content of the quality that it did some years ago. It has got better quality competition. WoW always feels more polished, though. It does always feel more polished. Like, you play other games, it doesn't feel as good. You know, the responsiveness often isn't as good. There's certain elements of it that don't quite work as well. You tend to get more bugs. I'm not saying bugs are absent in World of Warcraft, even with expansions. But it's certainly more polished and better done than other ones. But then you think about, so why do you play World of Warcraft? Well, in my case, the answer is endgame. It's always endgame. I love raiding. Is my main reason for playing. And I don't believe that any other MMO has raiding of the same quality. I can't know for certain, because how can I play all these ones? When you play endgame raiding at a certain level, it takes a lot of commitment. You can't really commit to doing that for multiple games. And without throwing yourself into it, how can you compare it? And so, but I would take the view that if another MMO had better quality features and had more love in it, and better quality raiding at the end of it, it would be reported. There would be a game that is known for it. The nearest I have ever come across about any game being known for the quality of its endgame raiding is Wildstar. And Right, first of all, I would never play that because it has this sort of Mario Japanese cartoony feel to it that I can't be doing with. But it's too garish for me. But again, if it was really good, there'd be loads of people playing it. There were loads of people that tried it out and then didn't. And then it's been revamped recently with the old free-to-play. And are there now loads and loads of people playing it again? No. So I don't think it's as good at all. Some people might prefer it because obviously it's always in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? So, you know, we're not going to say either World of Warcraft has the best rating or this game does. Some people might prefer one, some like the other. But on balance, the vast majority are not flocking to WildStar. So, and no other game I've heard of has that quality. And there are some MMOs where I've leveled to cap and done a bit of the end game as well, and it just hasn't been the same quality at all, not even close. So no one is seriously championing any other MMO as having superior end game raiding. So it is the one thing that World of Warcraft has, I would say, as a gold standard. So then it comes to the next thing. So I know I'm not going to be playing World of Warcraft for the rest of my life, which means I'm bound to move on to something else. But how will I do it? The thing is, in order to get out of endgame, like I say, you've got to commit. So what I would have to do at some point is decide World of Warcraft's not for me. And then I've got to pick a game. Well, then you think, well, what sort of game do I want to choose? Do I want to choose an established game? Or do I want to get in on the ground floor, which is always preferable. I always prefer doing that. And then well, how do I know? See, with World of Warcraft at the moment, I know how to play the game. I've been developing a character for many years. I know that I can cope with the end game experience. I know that I'm competent at least to do that. And I know that I enjoy it. So if I tried to do this for another game, I don't know that I'd be any good at it. I don't know that I would enjoy it. And if I did enjoy it and was good at it, I don't know that it would have a strong enough following for me to definitely find a raid group that was at the level I wanted to raid and with people that I enjoyed being with. That's a concern as well. So it would be a big risk to try and move from one to the other. As I say, I'm not particularly itching to go at the moment. I am enjoying the raiding World of Warcraft and absolutely committed to it. I do worry that there is an existential threat to raiding, however, in World of Warcraft, because we are losing so many mythic raiders. And there's all sorts of ideas I could come up for the reasons for this, but whatever the reason is, I can't know for certain, but it does happen. And I mean, guilds have always collapsed all the way through. Usually the reason they collapse is because the leader of the guild steps back because either they've had a kid and they need to spend more time in real life, or a promotion, same sort of thing, or they just don't want to play World of Warcraft anymore, want to play something else. And there's no one in the guild really to take it over. So the guild collapses, all the people go their separate ways and join other guilds. Increasingly, and what you do is then is, you know, when you're recruiting, you pick at the bones of this guild like a vulture and try and nab the best players for your guild. Now, this is even hard to do that. You find a guild has just collapsed, and there's only really a handful of players seem to even want to move anywhere. It's like the reason the guild's collapsing is not because the leadership has stopped playing, the leader of that guild. It's because they couldn't get enough people, because raiders stopped raiding and they weren't able to recruit. They didn't have the ability to recruit others. That seems to be an increasingly common reason, which wouldn't have been the case at all in the first few years of this game. You could easily replace people. People could leave. You could replace them with decent players as well. I don't just mean someone dragged off the street. Quite quickly, if you put the effort in as a recruiter. Now it's really hard. And you get I sort of get into a bit of a worrying situation where I'm thinking already there's only like 10% of players, like subscribers, do any organised raiding. And that's not mythic raiding. There's only like a couple, 2 or 3% do that. And then you think to yourself, what if at some point Blizzard decide that the mythic raiding is more trouble than it's worth? Not from the developer's point of view. I think the developers are absolutely committed. But what if the sort of the money men decide it's not worth the resources, just stop at heroic, and that's your top level? At this point, you completely kill the game off because there's no challenge to it for Mythic Raiders. We you know, we're already, I mean, we're used to the idea of the very top guilds maybe completing content in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. You'd have hundreds of guilds completing it in 1 week flat. What's the point? 1 week and then 6 months of nothing, then come back and do it. It's not even worth farming it, quite frankly. Not even worth farming the bloody thing once you've completed it. So, oh dear, yeah. Anyway, but I think that's the stranglehold that WoW has. It's this idea that you've developed a character there. People know that they can play it at that level. They don't know this in another game. They'd have to start a character from scratch that they haven't got any development into at all. They haven't got years of their life poured into it. And it's such a big risk to move to another game, and it might not work out. And I think that is why World of Warcraft still has millions more subscribers. It's not because it is the best game overall anymore. It is because people have invested so much into it already that there isn't another game that's come up that is definitely better. You know, it's always a risk. And you know, and I'm never going to be part of the Doom Brigade. There's always been this Doom Brigade that going, oh, World of Warcraft's doomed, it's going to be gone, it's going to die. They've been doing this ever since 2006. It's doomed, it's doomed. Even when the subscriber numbers were still going up. Oh, it's doomed, this is going to kill it off, and this is going to kill it off, and this is going to kill it off. And subscriber numbers kept on going. And of course, they've been going down for the past few years. And they go, oh, it's going to die, it's going to die. It's going to die when Blizzard kill it off, and not before. But will it be just a sudden, we're not going to do it anymore, or will it just be allowed to rumble on? And it could have a tenth of the subscribers it's got now. And games that are in that position still produce expansions and still rumble on. But do I want to play World of Warcraft just doing this thing? No, I don't. I mean, they're talking about reducing the time. They keep talking about this, wanting to bring out expansions every year, which would be really bad from a consumer point of view. Because then they don't even care if you keep subscribed for the whole year, because you're spending, what, 40, 50 quid on an expansion, maybe a month's worth of subscription or 2 months worth of subscription in that time. You know, that's about half. That's like equivalent of subscribing for half a year, just 1 or 2 months playing it. So they're not even all that bothered. They're also charging the earth for like automated processes and things like this. And it all just seems as if it's about clawing as much money as they can from the game without any long-term commitment to the game. It's almost like EA have taken over it on the quiet. I don't think they have. And as I say, it's not the developers. I wouldn't blame the developers at all for this. Developers, absolutely, say what you will. It's all about creating the best game they can. They're absolutely passionate about that. They are gamers. This is absolutely an executive with a portfolio of like lucrative games. So are they committed to the long-term future of World of Warcraft? No. They've got all these games, all lucrative. You know, as soon as they see one is not worth the money anymore, they'll just chop it. Or if they see one is in slow decline, well, we're still making plenty of money off it. Just keep it going. All right? Keep it going. Keep the money rolling in. It's all about, you know, the return for shareholders, isn't it? Artifact weapons are a potential indicator of their intentions from my point of view. Because so far this is just a perception. I'm just getting the perception that it's all about clawing the money. Maybe they do have a long-term plan, it just hasn't worked out yet. Now, the artifact system could be a bit of a link into this. Artifact weapons are generating a lot of interest, and that's what they want to do. They want to generate a load of hype for the expansion, get people to buy the expansion, after which, if not all of them carry on subscribing, we've got their money for the expansion. But what will happen at the end of Legion with artifacts? Will we ditch them and go back to normal weapons, or will we keep them? Is it a long-term thing? I would like Blizzard to say this at BlizzCon, because if they're able to say what their long-term aim is with regards to artifacts, it implies they are thinking in the long term. If they can't or they don't, then it makes me think all they're thinking about is how can we hype up the next expansion so that millions buy it, even if they're dissatisfied with it. And, you know, if all it is about planning some earth-shattering new feature, like artifacts, like Demon Hunters for Legion, and then accepting that a third of the players that buy it will never carry on subscribing, and they're okay with that, then obviously that is a bit of a worry. Now, do I see anything different coming in Legion? No. Shorter expansions is basically a sign of we just want to get money while we can. But the development team, as I say, they're completely apart from the money-making decisions. Can they give us... And we know that they've got the largest team they've ever had. We sort of talk about that. Although, that being said, the team is split in half because they work on 2 expansions at once. But nonetheless, we are told, and there's no reason to disbelieve it, they've got a large number of developers. So can they give us value in the gaming experience? The raiding will be quality. I've said that before. I have no doubt about that. The raiding is always good quality. Some raids are better than others, but the overall experience is good quality. I think they'll encourage us to take part in more content. Unfortunately, I think what that will mean is enforcing us to do the same 5-man dungeons for the entire expansion as they are already starting to do when the Valor Points thing comes out. I don't think they're going to bring out new dungeons halfway through, which is what I would like to see. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe it. Will they give us a reason to get us out of our garrison or out of the order halls it's in Legion? Because at the moment a lot of people are saying, oh, people are just festering around in the garrisons. Yes, I think they will give us a reason not to stick around in our order halls. But I just think instead we'll be sticking around in Dalaran instead. Because that's what I don't understand about people who moan about, oh, everyone's just stuck in their garrisons. Well, in previous expansions, people were just stuck around in cities. What's the difference, quite frankly? What is the difference between jumping around your own fountain in your own garrison or bonfire, or sat around a mailbox with a load of other people that you don't know and you're not talking to? Neither one is more sociable than the other. So, yeah, just this thing that I think they will come up with artificial ways to encourage us to do certain things, just to, like, use our time up, I don't think is really very ambitious. With shorter expansions, you also risk greater burnout from, like, raiders. Because, like, there's a nice ebb and flow to raiding. The new tier comes out, you learn about the bosses, you do your research, you're doing progress initially very quick, then it slows down a bit when you get onto the harder stuff. Then you finish the tier and you've got a couple of months before the next tier, or a certain number of months before the next tier. So it's a bit into farm, a bit more relaxed, blah, blah, blah. Next tier comes out and it starts again. And you have this nice little cycle. And if it's like, in previous years where you had an expansion that lasted for about 2 years, and then you had 4 tiers of content in it, you just get to this nice little cycle. Then after a couple of years, you're ready for the new expansion, and it's fine. But the problem is, in a new expansion, it's quite frantic at the start of expansion. You've got to level up your main character and get it raid ready, so you've got to get it geared. If split raids is still a thing for a small proportion of the player base, the serious mythic raiders, you've got to get 2 characters geared. And then you've got to learn how to play the bloody things, because that all changes. The class skill set changes with each expansion. You might have done a bit of beta. You might have learnt. And then they might have changed it all just before they brought out the expansion. So you have very much got to learn how to play the bloody class. And all of this thing is quite wearing on you before, and then after a couple of weeks, you may be back into your ebb and flow of raiding. But it's quite wearing. And if you're going to do that every year, I think that could create a bit of burnout, quite frankly. And if you get, as I say, if you get to the point where like mythic raiders are really dropping off, and Blizzard just think, well, is it really worth doing mythic raiding? And then their equivalent most difficult tier is what would now be heroic. I think you've killed off the one thing that World of Warcraft does better than anything else, and then you probably are into a slow decline, and you probably won't recover from that. It will just be a case of cycling it around, subscription numbers moving down. They'll still be profitable. Maybe it'll go down low enough to be worth going free to play then. I don't know. But it could still rumble on and still be profitable. But the development team would be much smaller, and it'll just be like WoD, but with never any ambition to do anything more than it currently is. But because I say, I mean, as far as I can tell at the moment, we've only got about 10% of the current subscribers who do organised raiding, not counting pugs and LFR and that sort of thing, but organised raiding. Maximum. I don't know how many do serious PvP. I don't know. It won't be as much as the raiding, I wouldn't have thought. Like the serious stuff, like, you know, the top end people. So that means the vast majority, you've got to have over 80% of current subscribers who are not doing either of these hard mode end game content. So what is there for them? They've got to be catered for. And if Blizzard just decide that in order to cater for them, they have to not cater so much for the raiding, like the mythic raiding. So that's where I see the existential threat to raiding coming from. I mean, personally, I would still, because you need something outside of raiding, and for a lot of raiders like that as well, I would still carry on playing this game if there was only raiding, which there pretty much has been in Warlords of Draenor. But what are they going to do in Legion to keep us in the game, beyond just incentivizing us to keep running their same scabby 5-man dungeons? I don't know. Are they even trying to come up with something? Don't know that either. But anyway, there's my moaning over for this week. So until next week, I'll see you later.